And we're live. Everybody, welcome to Fertile Me Live. Very happy to have you all here.
Yes.
Today we are streaming to 2 elephants too. How exciting. Simultaneously, we're just broadcasting our Facebook Live. We have so much fun things to talk about because we are going to spend the next few weeks talking about diet and nutrition. And it's a hot topic, but from a Chinese medicine perspective, diet is also one of the most important piece of healing, of accomplishing your health goals. So why don't we just dive in with a review of our Practically Fertile methodology for the people who are new and they've never heard of this before. We prepared like a fun little graphic for you. If you're on the podcast, too bad you won't be able to see this, but those of you who are live, boo-boo, yay! All right, so we have 3 steps to the Practically Fertile methodology, and we are currently talking about how to achieve a fertile cycle. And we talked about reset the body and the mind and why it's so important to do that. We are in the second phase, which is achieve a fertile cycle. And we haven't, third step is fine tune our strategies, right? So to achieve a fertile cycle, there's no magic formula. We're going to do that with fertile diet, fertile lifestyle, and fertile mindset. And last week we talked about the first step of a Practically Fertile diet protocol is to, let me see if I could find this handy dandy fertile diet graphic, and I'm going to upload it onto the software here, and then we're going to pop it up.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, I think it's important to emphasize just exactly what you said at the beginning, that this is the Chinese medicine perspective. It's Adrienne's Practically Fertile methodology because nutrition is a really intense topic. It's a controversial topic. And this is this way of doing it that Adrienne has seen, obviously, through her clinical experience work for over a decade.
Sorry. See, all these fun stuff when you're live, can't. It's like you can't take back. You can't say, "Oh, stop the recording." Everything's happening in real time.
But so all questions welcome. But so if it does buck against something that you've seen on Google or in Western medicine, then let's talk about it for sure. But we're aware of all that. This is.
I love it. So absolutely. And I think that there's so many diets out there. And that's one of the reasons why we have this podcast, this Facebook Live, and all of the resources that we have, because it can be so overwhelming. And when there are too many cooks in the kitchen, you get a dish that's just doesn't even taste good. So that's my goal, is to share with you one system and one strategy. And if it works for you, fantastic. If it doesn't jive with you, then that's okay, because maybe you'll find someone out there whose message you resonate with better.
Sure.
Because
diet is also not for weight loss.
Right. And, Chinese medicine, it's gaining steam, but I'm like the only one who's out there really talking about Chinese medicine, right? Like I still use traditional terms like qi stagnation, qi deficiency, when it's probably easier for somebody to remember if I could find like a cute name to represent qi deficiency or yang deficiency. But but then I lose the integrity of Chinese medicine, because there's no one word that describes your pattern. Like your pattern is a group of symptoms. Mm-hmm. You're not just pale or cold or, whatever. Like you are yin deficient because you have a group of symptoms that represent yin deficient, yin deficiency. So anyway, I want to share this cute graphic with you. Yay!
Yay!
So the Practically Fertile way, the 3 steps to a fertile diet, the first step is to cut out all these inflammation producing foods, which we've already started talking about. And last week we talked about something that's very specific to my protocol, and that is to cut out raw and cold foods, which we will continue talking about today because I'm getting a lot of questions about a cold uterus and what it is and what you can do about it. And is it even real, right? We talked a little bit about it last time. Step 2, so some people can get pregnant just by cutting out some of these things. And that may be your neighbor who said that she did Whole30 and got pregnant right away. It may, right? So some people, it works for some people. But you might need to go one step further. And that's when you get really specific and you eat foods that are specific to your pattern. And step 3 is even more involved in advance, is when you still need a little bit more, then you can eat according to your pattern and what sync with each phase of the menstrual cycle, the NutriSync. So if you're looking at the screen and you say, take the pattern quiz, this is a post that I did on Instagram a few days ago. So if you go to Instagram, adrian.we, and click on the link in my profile, that will take you to a pattern quiz if you don't know what your patterns are. All right. Cold uterus.
Yeah, I know one of the last questions I asked you at the end of last time was if cold uterus is even a thing in Western medicine. I know I had never heard of it.
Well, I think if you, the way that I would correlate cold uterus to Western medicine is if, just think of it as your uterus not being nourished properly. Cold uterus is a condition where the uterus is not in the best condition for implantation, to grow an embryo.
Inhospitable.
Inhospitable, right. It's not a good environment. It's not a good home for the embryo or the baby. So cold uterus. Now, in Western culture, cold uterus is very common because of lifestyle and diet. Because I'm sure, Ashley, you grew up drinking cold water, drinking cold drinks. You ate a lot of salads, like a lot of,
because it was hot outside and we just ate fresh produce, just raw, just tomatoes and corn and
Yep. So a lot of it is culture. So I don't know if, like we grew up so differently. When I was growing up, I get yelled at if I leave the house without a jacket, without a scarf, if I leave my house without any tights, and it's like 60 degrees out. It doesn't even have to be 20 below or close to freezing point. It just needs to be like 60 degrees. Like my grandmother would not let me wear shorts until it's like 80, like 75. Because cold energy can also enter your body through exposed areas. And culturally, I'm sure, I don't know, talk to me about, like, you left the house without a jacket on plenty of times, right? You wore skirts with no tights.
Sure. Well, and I was always barefoot.
Barefoot, exactly.
I used to work with someone actually, though, who was also from South Carolina, who would always tell me, don't go barefoot, especially like if you have your period or something. I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, you need to put something on your feet. And I was like, I don't understand what.
Maybe she knew something, right? But
so I was always, I did, but that's not to say my parents didn't, they were actually pretty strict, but I mean, no, I spent a lot of time outside in the South.
Yeah.
Me and the outside.
I mean, even taking a dip in the pool and getting out and not covering up, I mean, you're exposed.
I would dip in the pool and then run across the street in my bathing suit and jump in my neighbor's pool and go back and forth.
Right. So,
because it was fun.
Definitely fun. And it's not wrong, or, it's just culturally different. And that's why cold uterus is not a thing here.
Yeah.
It's a Chinese medicine term because the Chinese people drink hot soup when it's hot outside. We always cover up. Never go to bed with hair that's wet. You always wear socks, slippers around the house. Like if you ever go to an Asian household, like traditional Asian household, they will chase you around with pair of slippers because you don't walk around somebody's house barefoot.
Ooh. I don't like to have anything on my feet. Yeah.
But you have to, like when you go visit a traditional household. But anyway.
That's what they did to me when I was an exchange student in Germany. I had to wear stuff on my feet. I know it was Germany, but they also made me wear a scarf all the time when I was under the weather. And also, even though it was summer, at like 3 p.m, we would always have like hot soup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it's 9 times out of 10, 95% of my patients who come in, it's a cold and raw diet.
Mm-hmm.
Smoothies, juices, ice water,
salads,
sushi. And I really think like your parents' generation, maybe your host family generation, and it's a different culture too, because I really think that the reason why these smoothies and cold drinks and everything is so popular is because of the whole like weight loss craze. Sure. Because everybody's trying to lose weight, and there's just like, oh, if you drink cold water, your body will burn more calories and it will help you like lose weight.
Because your body works harder.
Yeah, but if you're spleen Qi deficient, right? If you're already Qi deficient and you are trying to make your body work harder, well, that's why diets don't work. People lose weight and they gain it 20 times more back because they're not doing it properly.
Right.
Anyway.
I mean, I am from the South. We ate a lot of warm cooked foods, but it's just, I think also like in the summertime when produce is fresh and everything, I think also it's trendy now to like, I don't know, like be more natural and get back to the earth. And so you just think, yeah, like I'll eat, tomatoes and berries and stuff right out of my garden. And those things just happen to be raw.
Yep. Well, and here's another very, very interesting correlation too, is that the summer, so each organ has a season, emotion, color, right? So guess what summer is? Spleen.
Uterus. Oh.
No, the five most important organs. I mean, uterus is what we call an extra organ, but not extra as in we don't need it, but extra as an extraordinary. So uterus to us is but there's no uterus meridian, right? Uterus is it's an organ that stores something, just like the stomach. Stomach is an organ that stores and empties.
Okay. So the spleen is summer.
Spleen is summer. And what is spleen most affected by? Damp, humidity, right? So summer is the time of where spleen is very much affected. And that's why a lot of people with spleen Qi deficiency, they have a really hard time in the summer because it's damp, it's humid. So if you are spleen Qi deficient and you're eating all this raw and cold foods, you're aggravating your spleen Qi deficiency.
Okay.
Unknowingly, obviously, because, right? So summertime, like people take afternoon naps more often because you're just more tired.
Mm-hmm.
It's that spleen working overtime and becoming more tired.
Right. So again, when you put yourself in those situations, it's valuable energy being taken away from your reproductive system to
absolutely, yeah,
your body.
Okay. That's why the Chinese people like eat hot soup in the summertime. So I'm not saying that there isn't a lot more of I mean, China is a very modern country now, so I'm sure that Chinese people nowadays have their fair share of cold uterus issues. But cold uterus, again, it's a condition that's caused by cold energy entering your body, and it means that your uterus is not in the ideal condition. Now, there's such thing as prevention as well. So a lot of what I'm talking to you about, there's maybe some people out there, they're like, well, I don't think I have a cold uterus or, whatever. Because I get pushed back a lot from people. Like, they're like, well, I'm not gluten tolerant. I don't have problem digesting dairy. It's about prevention as much as it is about correction. And I hope if you remember nothing else, remember that just because you don't experience something right now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to in the future. And by the time you start having symptoms, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about what we do. Like, we are the last resort for so many people. And then we have to spend all this time, training people to unlearn what they've have gotten used to their whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about prevention as well as correction. So if you want to drink smoothies and cold water and whatever, and be my guest, I just think that when you don't drain your reproductive energy from your body and your body has more energy to think about having a baby, it makes a huge difference.
Got it.
And a cold uterus, some of the examples would be maybe you've had failed IVF transfers. Maybe your lining never gets thick enough. Maybe you have problems with egg quality. Maybe you have problems with even lining quality. Maybe you are cold all the time. If your circulation is not if you have cold hands and feet, mm-hmm. your uterus for sure is going to be affected because your body doesn't even have enough energy to warm up your extremities. It's not going to be circulating to the uterus.
Right. So it seems though that it really comes down to blood flow, huh?
That's one way of looking at it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To warm it up, if you will start drinking hot tea, warm bone broth, cooking all your food, all that. So it literally, the warmth, like the temperature warmth, just makes your blood flow.
Well, that's part of it.
Better.
And that's only part of it. Diet for sure, right? And then, acupuncture is so effective at boosting circulation, boosting blood flow, because guys, like your body, your meridians are all connected. You can't think that what's happening in one part of your body isn't affecting the other. Everything will eventually affect and sink into all of your organs. It would affect all of your organs. It's just to what degree. So again, if your fingertips are always cold, your blood flow to your uterus will be affected. So it's not like your body's hoarding all that energy and it's in like one area. Right. It's not like your uterus is like super warm and your fingertips are cold. It doesn't work that way. Right. Your body will shut down your reproduction so that you can survive. Mm-hmm. Like we talked about, survival is the number one thing that your body's worried about. So it's not thinking, well, let me warm up the uterus and sacrifice your, fingertips and toes. So I don't care if they're cold as long as your uterus is warm. That's not how it works.
Right. Okay. So that's a main reason why we want to cut out cold and raw foods.
Well, and also cover up. Wear socks around the house, slippers. Don't leave your house without a jacket. I see people here wearing flip-flops to treatments and I yell at them. I'm like, what are you doing? It's so cold out. Wear Uggs, wear sneakers, whatever. Keep your feet covered.
I have flip-flops in my bag, but I'm barefoot all around all the time in my office.
Mm-hmm. But you're already blood deficient. You're already cold, and so that's probably aggravating it.
Surely.
And then cover up, wear socks, acupuncture, herbs for your pattern, specific to your pattern. And you can even do heating pads. A lot of people ask me about heating pads, whether or not that's going to add heat to the uterus. It's not going to hurt you, but the amount of penetration that it needs to get to the uterus, any heating pad or even the heat lamps that's not going to work, right? The heating pad is just going to, on the very superficial level, boost the blood flow, but it's not going to have the same effect as maybe, acupuncture. So yes, you have to do all these things. It can't just be like one thing.
Okay. All right. So back to diet. Yeah.
So you've already cut out raw and cold foods. The the next thing, and this is how it's going to work in the next coming up weeks, is we're going to talk about something like gluten or dairy or sugar, for example. And then we really would like for you to do that as your homework. That week, we're going to cut out gluten. We're going to cut out dairy. We're going to cut out sugar. That's going to be a big one for people.
1 week at a time, baby steps.
1 week at the time. Yep. So should we start talking about,
I want to ask you this. So sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I know that a lot of people will probably think, well, I don't need to revolutionize my diet because other women get pregnant without, stopping eating salads and smoothies and stuff like that. Again, that's why I mentioned before, this is your methodology and you've seen it work. Like, are there instances where you've had a patient or client or something like that, and they had tried everything else, and when they just started to manipulate their diet, it became an effective way for them to get pregnant?
All the time. I mean, my friend Krista, she, for the longest time, only drank cold water, ate a bunch of dairy because she's a vegetarian. And I told her to cut out dairy and find another protein source. And she got pregnant the next month, or 2 months it took her.
Really?
So, this is one of those things where, number one, I'm not interested in comparing myself to other people, and I don't think that you should either. Like, why? Like, we're different people. Just because somebody got pregnant and they didn't need to go on this diet, like, good for them. Like, you are you. The reason that you may be struggling is because you may have underlying unresolved inflammation. You may have unresolved imbalances. And those are all the things that you have to work through.
Right. This is where you are.
I mean, why do we only have one lottery winner every so often? Right? Like,
because life's not fair.
Like, am I going to say I'm pissed off because this person like won $1 billion lottery? Like,
I am.
Anyway. Well, in North Carolina, you can find out who they are and track them down.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I mean, I don't know if, that was the best example, but I think you guys get what we're saying. Like, don't compare yourself to other people. It's completely, like, you have 2 different husbands. Like, even your husbands are different people. Their sperms are not the same. So why you're comparing yourself to other people? And can I just remind you that you're doing this for your overall health? It's not just to get pregnant. And if that's how you feel, if you're like, well, I don't care, I just want to get pregnant, then I think you have a lot of work to do. But I think that if you see this as a way of creating healthy habits, healthy dietary habits, healthy lifestyle habits, that's going to help you not only to get pregnant, but have a healthy pregnancy and beyond, then I think you're going to find that this is going to be one of the best diet protocols ever.
Yeah, that's very important to note. I know there's a quote that said, like, literally, like, effective, good, loving parenthood starts before you try to conceive a baby.
Yep.
Before you try to even conceive, because you're right, because of that whole notion that these things are going to be passed on from generation to generation. Because I would see, especially being an instant gratification person, how I would listen to your methodology and see that it may take some time. And then I would see someone hand me something like Vitex and say, oh, is that like a pill or one herb that I can take that might do the same thing for me? And that's very appealing, but that doesn't mean it's right or it's going to work.
Don't even get me started on Vitex. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But that's exactly, yeah. I mean, right? I think, of course, the easiest way to get pregnant is if you don't have to do anything, right? You start trying and you just get pregnant.
Right.
But I will tell you, and this is, I don't know what emotion this is going to trigger, but I personally suffered a lot from PCOS, right? Like all throughout my 20s, I didn't even know why I wasn't getting my period. I didn't care. And then finally realized it was PCOS. And my doctor told me that I probably wouldn't get pregnant because so little was understood about the condition. So now I know so much more because I got pregnant. Like I gave myself a ton of acupuncture. I was already like eating clean. I was like, when I'm ready to have a kid, when I meet the right man, I will be ready. And that's exactly what happened. Through the process of working on resolving the PCOS, I got married and I had a daughter. But I wish that I had more time. I really do. And I wish I had more time because knowing what I know now, I wish that I would have taken more of the supplements that I'm taking now. I wish I would have cut out some of the toxic products earlier. I wish I had given my husband more acupuncture. I wish that I would have been even cleaner with my diet. Like back then, like I was still eating gluten. But I wish I would have done all of that because I know that it would have given my daughter an even better start at life. And
you feel like it would have like set Genevieve up differently?
It would totally would have. Like she's pretty healthy, because I came into
perfect.
She's healthy, but I knew that I wish I had more time because I just knew, like knowing half the things I know now, I know that I could have set her up for even better, give her an even better start to life. And that's what it's about. You're doing all of this right now for your baby.
Yeah, that's good motivation right there.
So I don't know. I don't know what emotion that would trigger, but I just felt the need to like share that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's motivation for allowing it to take more time than you would like for it to take. You're doing it for them and not you.
So I guess like just don't think about, oh my God, like, I don't know how much longer it's going to take me to get pregnant. Just take it day by day, take it week by week. And through this journey, you're going to get pregnant. It's the journey. I promise you, majority of the people who come through my clinic get pregnant.
That's the truth.
Majority. And I know you don't feel it right now because you are still in it. You're still trying to conceive, but I promise you, you will get pregnant. Everybody will get pregnant.
Oh,
it's just how you get there.
This reminds me too, because I get very passionate about certain things, and one of them happens to be secondary infertility. You know this, and so if someone is experiencing secondary infertility, I'm sure they may be thinking, I didn't cut out gluten the first time that I got pregnant, and I've got the same body. All of this advice still goes just the same for people who are suffering from secondary infertility, correct? Secondary infertility, for anyone who doesn't know, is when you've already had children, and you're trying to conceive again and you're having a hard time doing it.
You're not the same person. That's the first mindset we have to, that's the first mindset change, is that you are not the same person. You're not the same person today as you were yesterday. You are a completely different person. And having gone through a major life event like getting pregnant, childbirth, and nursing, dealing with postpartum,
taking care of a newborn,
going
back to work, not going back to work.
Your life is completely different. Your body is completely different. Your chi is completely different. You're more blood deficient now. You're more yin deficient. You're more chi deficient. You may be more chi stagnant because now that your stress levels are higher.
Yeah, and you're eating differently. You're eating leftover chicken nuggets from your kid's plate because that's all you have time for. So yeah, and not to start that whole thing, but I just wanted to point out that anyone who is suffering from secondary infertility, this is still something that you need to do if you're struggling right now. It doesn't matter what it took you to get pregnant the first time.
Yeah.
Correct?
Absolutely. Yep. And I think too, like, if I could just get people to stop thinking about getting pregnant, like capturing the flag type of thing. Like, if I can just get you to think about, like, this is my lifestyle now. Like, I'm changing my lifestyle. I'm changing my diet. Like, if you could just think about this as a long-term thing rather than I'm going to capture the flag as quickly as I can and call it a day. I've won.
Right.
So I think that's why we talked about this for so long, is the fact that, like, diet is so important because you have to eat to live. So really learn how to eat healthy and how to create healthy habits that will last you a lifetime.
Agreed. Okay, so I know we kind of gave homework last time for cutting out raw and cold foods. We've talked more about why that is beneficial. And then we'll go through next times, like, kind of what, like, each thing that it's anti-inflammatory that people should cut out, right? Like,
well, let's start with gluten. I mean, we have some time. We'll start with gluten, and then we can finish the conversation about gluten next time too, because we can start talking about, I mean, gluten is glue.
Right.
It's glue that holds food together. It's a group of proteins that give food its shape.
Yeah. Maybe if we're just broaching the topic of gluten, before you start your gluten-free challenge that won't happen until next week, I know when people first start going gluten-free, because I did it, we were on the podcast a while ago, and I had talked at length about how much I love gluten. And so I was challenged to go off of gluten, which I did. Like, gluten doesn't necessarily mean
healthy.
Gluten-free doesn't. Yeah, like, gluten doesn't necessarily mean wheat. Gluten-free
right.
products don't necessarily mean healthy products if it's just a bunch of additives. Like, there's ways to look at labels and stuff like that to see if it really is gluten-free or not. Like, sometimes before you go gluten-free, you just got to realize what has gluten in it and what doesn't. So that's a great thing to start to research.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I was wondering if we need to talk about, if we should even spend the time to talk about all these different diets that are out there, to kind of give, like, an overview before we dive into, like, the gluten stuff, because I think it's important for people to realize why our diet is different, why our diet protocol will be a little bit different. So maybe hang tight. I mean, we're going to talk about diet, but obviously we can't, like, cram everything in. But I just feel like it's really important because there's so many different diets out there, right? There's the Mediterranean diet, the paleo diet. There's gluten-free, there's keto, Ayurvedic diet. I mean, there's, what else? I'm missing something. Well, vegetarian diet, vegan diet.
Yeah, let's talk about why we're doing this instead of those. We've got like 5-10 more minutes, so that's perfect.
Yeah, just before we get into this huge topic with gluten, because we kind of, like, went off on the tangent, got on our soapbox a little bit, but I welcome any feedback. Like, I want to see if I triggered any emotions, how people feel about it, if it makes them felt better, like, right? Because part of our job is to help women get pregnant. And I've been doing this so long, and I just feel like mindset is so important that even though some things may be hard to hear, I think you still have to hear it. Even if I get backlash, even if people misunderstood me or something, I think it's still really important. So anyway, okay.
Like keto, for instance, like, do you like, I think maybe sometimes when people think, oh, I got to cut out gluten or whatever, they think that means cutting out carbs. Like keto, when you go into ketosis, like, why is that not a good thing for?
Well, the thing about keto is that there are there's keto is one of the most controversial diets out there because there are a group of people who are like, it's the best thing ever. And there's a group of people who are like, you should only do keto for a short time and you should only do keto for under a very controlled environment, like under supervision from a medical doctor. But the whole idea of keto is that you starve your body of carbs, which is a huge energy source, and you force your body to burn fat instead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's called ketosis, right? That's not the same as ketoacidosis. That's like when you go overboard. That's a very serious condition, but ketosis is very hard to maintain because you have to be so strict on being under certain carb amount each day. And you have to make sure that you're eating like 70-80% fat. Like your calories have to come from fat.
Yeah, there's no jumping back in it either. Like if you eat too many carbs, you can't just stop. It's going to
take like 2 weeks,
4 days to get back into ketosis.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember on the old podcast I interviewed my good friend Carrie Jackson on a keto diet, and I immediately got backlash, and I got lots of emails from people who they're like, we disagree with you or respectfully disagree with you, and anyway, it's a hot topic depending on who you ask. But keto, I think if you have a very specific condition, if you have a very specific, like if you have severe PCOS and you want to do keto for like 2 or 3 months just to lose a massive amounts of weight immediately, or if people with epilepsy, they found that certain types of cancer, epilepsy could really benefit from a keto diet.
That's interesting.
And that's, if you have those conditions and you want to do it for a short time under a physician's supervision, I think that's great, right? Like, but I think for fertility, long term, keto's not healthy. I mean, your body needs carbs. And when you don't have enough carbohydrates, it's going to start affecting your thyroid. It can set you up for a lot of other different health issues. So, that's why I'm not a proponent of keto diet. I think it's extremely difficult to maintain. Yeah,
I think the point to all these diet trends is that their main purpose is weight loss. And their main purpose is not fertility. And if you're trying to get pregnant, are you going to get on a diet to make you lose weight and look like a runway model? Or are you going to get on a diet that supports your fertility?
I'm so glad you said that. And I'm so proud because you've worked with me for almost 2 years now. And I think that you got it. That's exactly what it is.
And it would be different if you were telling people to eat donuts and everyone who did your diet was going to, end up needing a crane to lift them out of their living room. It's naturally going to be beneficial for your body. But the point is that it's geared toward fertility, which is what is your goal, right?
It's geared towards fertility and it's sustainable. I mean, the practically fertile diet is sustainable because at any given point, so there's the 3 steps. At any given point, you just keep like you start with step 1. That's not enough. Go to step 2. Go to step 3. That doesn't work for you. Just go to step 1, right? You can constantly go back and forth and none of the steps are going to hurt you.
Right.
So it's not like you're going to be, that's what I mean earlier when I said, I hope this is going to be such a lifestyle change for many of you because this really could last a lifetime. This is a way of eating that carries you throughout your entire life.
Is that because it's like hormone balancing and stuff? Like once you're done with trying to?
Well, I think that's what our methodology is, the combined East meets West, right? So cutting out all these inflammation foods. everybody knows that by now, like gluten, dairy, sugar, but that's the bare minimum. However, from a Chinese medicine perspective, you also cut out all the raw and cold foods, and you eat foods that are specific to your pattern. And that's forever. That will work forever. The practically fertile methodology will work for you forever, even if you're not trying to get pregnant, because as long as we know what your patterns are, you'll know what to eat.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know that I'm now qi deficient, so I need to be mindful of these things, or I'm now yin deficient, so I need to be mindful of these things.
Yeah, your patterns will change, so you'll get to change.
And hopefully when we talk more about our diet protocol, it will become more obvious to you that it's really flexible. Like, it's not like do or die type of thing. Because Chinese medicine itself is a very forgiving, flexible, nothing, like that's why when we get emails, when people, they are asking us if there's a certain time and they need to take the medication, what happens if they missed a dose? Or not medication, herbs. What happens if they miss a dose? It's because we are trained by Western medicine that you have to take these at a certain time. You have to take this a certain dosage. Otherwise, it's not going to work. But that's not Chinese medicine. So no, it doesn't matter if you forget a dose. It doesn't matter if you spill something and you only got in a quarter teaspoon instead of a half a teaspoon. It's okay. Because
that's a hard adjustment.
We're doing this long term. Like, think of this long term.
Yeah, I remember a patient got very upset because she had stuck to her diet so well, and then she just, out of habit, something I would do at home, just ate like a raw tomato out of her garden. And I remember she asked us, she was like, oh my God, like I've spent so much time. And all the practitioners here, including Adrian, were like, so they were like, okay, I mean, God, no, it's not going to hurt you. It's a tomato. Just start again. I mean, it's.
Yep. So so, and we talked about this before too, like 80-20 is our goal.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a month you're 20-80, right? You ate really good 20% of the time and 80%, Christmas time is the perfect example. Mm-hmm. I don't know anybody who stuck to their diet over Christmas time. Does that mean you've ruined everything? No. You just get back on and don't feel bad about it. It's not like you eat a tomato or you eat some cheese one day and it completely ruins you. Like, it's not like that at all, right? So please, please, please do not get upset and I think that's one thing that will cause so much stress is this need for perfection, this need for, if I don't do this 100%, it's not going to work. I'm happy if you just cut out the raw and cold stuff. If that's all you can commit to, that's all you can commit to.
Right.
And forget what I said before. Forget everything that I said before. If you can just do one thing really, really well, that's good. You should pat yourself on the back and be like,
Yeah, that's also going to help with your motivation and your mindset too. And even if, and I know that we'll get into diet obviously later and we're out of time, but, or if you do have to eat, craving a salad or someone serving you a salad at your guest at their house or something like that, drink something warm with it. Drink a cup of bone broth, ask your hostess for some hot tea. Just do what you can when you can.
Right. Because we're doing this for the long term.
Right.
I know. Okay. So I do have one clarification because I don't want people out there to think like, because, remember what I was saying before, like give yourself more time. This is good. Like, you're setting your baby up for success. I don't want you to freak out and be like, oh shoot, I just got pregnant and I haven't followed your diet protocol for 3 months yet. I don't want you to freak out and be like, oh my God, like I'm hurting my baby. So that's why
Adrian didn't do it either. That's what she said.
That's one clarification that I want to make is that, I don't want this to be misconstrued as me saying that like, hey, if you get pregnant now, like you're screwed, right? That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But you just, if you're pregnant now and you're like, wow, like my diet have not been good, start now.
Mm-hmm.
Start now. It's never too late to start eating healthy. It's never too late to cut out all these things. It's never too late to start taking quality supplements because you got 9 months. You have 9 months for this baby.
Right. And you also, if you want to have another child after that, start now.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that because, if you want number 2, baby number 3, number 4, that's what I mean. But this is going to be something that will help you in the long run. Even if you're going like it's 10 years from now and you're in menopause. Mm-hmm. And this will still be what I tell you to do. You got to cut out the inflammatory foods. You got to eat according to your pattern, and that will help you get rid of your hot flashes. It will help you get rid of your mood swings. It would help you have an easier transition into menopause. So anyway.
10 years from now, that is not a lot of time. Like 20 years from now, maybe. Say that.
All right. So next time let's talk about gluten. Oh, I did want to mention more diets, but maybe I can do that as a solo episodes. Okay. We'll talk next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you later.